Good evening, everyone. Good evening, dear audience who are joining us in PMI UAE chapter webinar series. Welcome. And then more importantly, this is one of that series which is we keep continuing together and then we keep sharing the knowledge with all of us. And in this continuation process, we welcome you again back into this series. And apparently this one would be uh, going ahead with our topic, which is about digital twins, as you must be aware while registering for the event. We will wait for a couple of more minutes to welcome all other esteemed guests who are going to join us in due course of few couple of minutes more, and then we will formally launch ourselves. Meanwhile, please try to interact with each other and then introduce yourself into the chat section. Leverage this platform to share your knowledge, ask the questions, and introduce yourself to make network connections as well. For the people who are joining it for the first time, warm welcome. And then more importantly, this is the platform which we keep utilizing ourselves as a part of the PMI UAE chapter initiatives. And then this initiative is catering towards sharing the knowledge, welcoming the diversified speakers and the varied topics so that we can learn about it and we can make best use about those knowledge sharing session into our practical work experience as well as into the workforce management. The series keep us engaging every 2 weeks. Alternatively, we do this webinar series for the people who are joining it for the first time in the PMI UAE chapter 1. But nevertheless, there are more things which we keep on doing, which I'm going to introduce you all in the couple of more minutes. But I see 75, 74 participants have joined here now, including us. So it's a 68 attendees. But we will formally launch in 2 or 3 minutes more formally there. Meanwhile, welcome and thank you so much to take out your valuable time from your family, friends, and work and to become the part of this journey of 1.5 hours approximately. We have a chat section open there, so you can definitely make best use of that and then keep introducing yourself and keep interaction mode on. You can probably use this platform to not only tell about your name and profiles, but also can introduce your location and the kind of industry you are coming from. That also give us a good idea to us that which industry is more leaning towards which kind of topics, as well as other people also get benefit to know that if they are coming from the same industry background. But I think we are formally going towards 100 kind of attendees. So we will launch ourselves with the formal session now. Thank you so much for joining us. Good evening, good afternoon, and good morning from wherever you're joining from in the different time zones, if in that case. My name is Anshul Chaubey, and I'm your host tonight for this webinar. And we have our esteemed guest, Mr. Kendall Wilson, with us today, who is our speaker tonight, and then also the presenter about his digital twin aspects and how that is going to map with the frameworks of ISO standards. Before going to the formal topic, to the core, I would like to introduce the whole structure about the webinar. Normally, this webinar is 1.5 hours, or 115 hours more precisely. And then I have a team with me is with Ankur, Parvez, Joyce, also and Amir, so who are working tirelessly with the backend to make this kind of event possible for all of us. We are here again to share this knowledge as a part of the event series of PMI UAE chapter. And today's topic, which we're going to discuss, as you all know, is about digital twin life cycle, right? So before we jump into the topic, allow me to share my screen, and then I will just introduce you to the PMI UAE chapter, and then we will now formally go and hand it over to the Mr. Wilson after introducing him. And then at the end, we are also trying to going to also answer the questions if you have around the topic or anything which you want to ask to Mr. Wilson. We will try to answer that during the time frame. And also we will keep the session recorded in the YouTube channel. So if somebody has any kind of question which they have missed it, they would be able to go and revisit it into the YouTube channel of PMI UAE chapter. So allow me to share my screen now. With that in mind, I have this presentation, which will be quick and easy for us to know about PMI UAE chapter. To make it a big screen. Good. Yeah, good. So coming to the project management, of course, many of us, we all know that what is Project Management Institute is all about. It was founded in 1969 in USA. And then more importantly, even after 50 years now, it is one of that source of knowledge and resource, which we all look forward continuously around this project management as a kind of field. It is one of the largest professional association, and also it offers a lot of accreditation and communities training, as well as it also issues the certification as standards and credential as well. Coming to the chapter of UAE PMI, we have a vision of empowering and influencing individual with the innovative project economy principles and turning them into the ideas of a reality. With that, the mission statement says that to disrupt and create value-driven opportunities to our chapter members, partners, so that they become agile, innovative, productive in the platform for growth of project economy. This is some of the facts about chapter. It's 100% run by volunteers. Also, we are proud to say that we are 4,000 plus active members into the chapter now. We are ranked in the top 5 chapters in EMA region, and we are trying to continuously serve towards industry trends and pattern with a lot of knowledge sharing aspects about the community. We are here making the project managers, leaders much more focused in this field and increasing their capabilities in the form of their profession engagement. We all depend on the people like you to make our chapter activities as interactive and invigorating as much as possible for our interactions. Our board is consist of Mr. Abdul Sultan, who is leading from the front as a president, and rest of the board members who is accompanying him as a part of this endeavors. The chapter has a lot of benefits besides just being the part of PMI. So the few of the benefits align towards networking. We do a lot of knowledge sharing and learning sessions, career growth opportunities and events. This webinar is a part of diversified webinar series under the event pillar. A few of the local initiatives of the PMI chapters are these, which we have been recently introduced, which are having the member spotlight and also the members corner that gives ample opportunity for the people who are actively engaging with the chapter and who are contributing to the chapter with the form of their knowledge sharing or even from the perspective of their experiences. If you want to gather more info about the chapter activities and what the chapter is doing about, what is going around, what is going to come, you have all this knowledge and information being shared transparently over the different social media channels, including Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube as well. If you have any queries regarding the membership or volunteering, or more importantly, any kind of PDUs, definitely you can get in touch with all of these different email addresses, relative ones, and then respective board member and the chapter board members will get in touch with you regarding that matter. This is about the chapter. More importantly, now let me just stop the sharing the screen and they will come back to the original topic that this chapter we are more heavily engaging towards bringing a diversified knowledge sharing. And that is the reason that today we are proud to say that we have Mr. Wilson with us and who is going to take us with a deep dive across digital twins and its evolutionary stages. So today we are going to learn something about ISO standards, which is one of the key criterias around digital twin project lifecycle. And also it is going to help us in terms of learning the concept, terminologies, how the digital twin concept is getting married to the information management and then digital information development in the form of construction and deployment phases. We also going to learn about environmental operations and the maturity model assessment as a part of this webinar. With that in mind, let me introduce Mr. Wilson. Mr. Wilson is highly accomplished professional with approximately 30 years of experience in QA, quality assurance, business intelligence, infrastructure, and digitization. He is also certified PMP, PMI, BA professional, and Mr. Kendall has made significant contribution to advancing digital solution for leading organizations such as Meta, Google, Mountain, and Parsons. Currently, he's serving as a digital twin smart cities innovation and data analytics lead at Mountain Holding in Abu Dhabi. And also he's driving high-level digital transformation initiative across MENA region for them. His expertise spans with digital ecosystem, quality oversight, and compliance with reliability standards across critical infrastructure sectors. His career also is getting highlighted with the most of the areas which is around digitization of data centers at Meta and Google, and by integrating the BIM 360 tandem digital twins, Power BI, and augmented reality. So this is about Mr. Kendall Wilson, who is going to take the floor with me now without any further ado. Will going to take us into the further deep dive of ISO and digital twins with us. Over to you, Mr. Wilson. You are on mute. Probably you need to unmute yourself.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah,
so,
good.
Good evening, everyone. We will be covering, can everyone see my screen there? Okay.
Yeah, we can see, sir.
Okay, very good. So we're going to be covering digital twin delivery and strategy. My name is Kendall Wilson. I come originally from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in the United States, now residing in UAE. So I just wanted to give an overall background. I know sometimes people wonder how we get to a certain point in our career or what our journey was in how we got into digital delivery or digitization. There are many different avenues to get into that. Some I would say probably 40, 50, 60% are coming from the realm of building information management, and they've developed their skill set via BIM, and then they've moved into digitization from there. Others are coming from GIS, Geographical Informational Systems, and they as well are moving from that GIS space into an overall digitization space, which is a natural and organic evolution. Then we have another space where people come from, which is more information technology. So you'll have data scientists, you'll have people with a full IT background. And within the last 3 to 5 years, you'll have people with coming from the AI space and pushing into this space as well. So everybody takes a different journey in order to get into digitization and digital twins, and none of those journeys are predetermined. If you look here at my journey, it began actually in 1993. I served a union apprenticeship in the United States, so I began in construction. In parallel with that, I completed a degree in psychology, information science, and computer science. So as you can see, at that particular time, I was sort of building databases, but I was in metallurgy, and I was moving throughout the oil refineries and as well as the nuclear facilities throughout the Eastern Seaboard. As I transitioned into quality, got a few more certifications and licenses, became a lead auditor, as many people do, via IRCA, ISO 9001, 2015. Also picked up, I didn't have enough room to put everything, but also became a certified quality auditor through the American Society of Quality. In 2015, I decided to revisit and get an additional bachelor's in occupational health and safety, and then moved into Six Sigma, moving later in the career, University of Salford for MSc in project management, moved into PMI a bit later when I was over in Denmark for several certifications there. Last year or earlier this year, 2024, moved into artificial intelligence and smart cities, although I had moved into this space earlier. And now in present, I'm pursuing a doctorate via Golden Gate University. That's in digital transformation, digital leadership, and artificial intelligence. And I've just put the flags on the bottom. Obviously, began in the United States, did some time in Saudi Arabia, was over in China for a bit of a stretch, Singapore, then Denmark, and now landing here in UAE. So I just say that to say that that was my journey, and it gives me a different journey than others have taken, but I think it allows me to look at digital twins through a different lens. And that lens is that I've actually been on a lot of construction sites, so I understand and I can make the bridge between construction and making the conversion into digital delivery of that construction. And I'll go into all the different scopes and all the different aspects that encompasses. So this particular slide is saying what's driving change and innovation conversation now. So we have a lot of key words out there now, some phrases that are going around. Obviously, artificial intelligence is big. Within artificial intelligence, obviously, we have a lot of subsections of that. We have machine learning, we have LLM, regression, we have multiple modes within there. We have blockchain coming into that as well. And then we just have this overall concept of big data. There's also 3D printing. There's some very interesting use cases. I think Autodesk has a very interesting use case of a bridge that was fully designed by AI and then utilize 3D printing throughout the process. Obviously, building information is always, that's a staple, and that's kind of the framework, building information modeling. Modeling that digital twin coming off of that basic framework. Then we have smart connected assets, which is moving more into the ISO 55,000 series for machines, plants, cities, etc. Moving down the list, we have drones. So obviously we're utilizing drones many different ways. We can use it for progress. We can use it for monitoring the site. It's basically another form of IoT at this point. Then we also, another big one is autonomous vehicles. We do have some autonomous vehicles here in UAE. I'm not sure about Dubai, but out in Yaz, there's autonomous vehicles out there. The app is called TXAI. If anyone's interested to do some research on that, they have taxis. They also have autonomous pods, and then they have an ART that kind of runs down the corniche of Abu Dhabi. Then we have advanced robotics. I haven't delved too much into advanced robotics, but this is also another key for manufacturing. We also have nanotechnology, biotechnology, material science, and then quantum computing. Quantum computing obviously has been in the news quite a bit with Elon Musk and what he's developing now in his relationship and his partnership with NVIDIA. Then we move down, we have circular economy, renewable energy, net zero goals. If we talk about renewable and net zero goals, obviously in UAE, we have the UAE Vision 2030. And then that also then would feed into the UN Sustainability Development Goals as well. So when we try to map, we try to think of a holistic vision. And we want to try to, if whatever country you're in is going to have some very specific to that country, but ultimately they should be mapped up to the UN SDGs. Then we have off-site construction, which is becoming very big now, and modern methods of construction. So all of these are kind of the catchphrases and what's driving overall innovation throughout the construction and through the facilities management industries. This is just touching on the Sustainable Development Goals. I've not pulled out all, but I've pulled out the ones that I've mapped in my digital delivery practices. I've mapped all of these to specific initiatives. So whatever initiatives I have, usually I'm going to take these from a smart city standpoint or from a digital standpoint. I'm going to map these against 37122. Those are my key performance indicators as provided by ISO. and I'm going to map these and put these into these buckets, and any initiatives that I have are then going to come into one of these buckets. So whether we're in the UAE or whether we're in the United States or whether we're in Europe, we understand that we're feeding into a global concerns about resilient infrastructure, good health, economic growth, etc. And we don't want to operate in a silo. We want to be able to stand on a stage, no matter what country we're in, and say we are aware of everything and all of our surroundings within the world as it stands. Okay, so this slide is just going into the kind of the basic differences between a physical twin and a digital twin. So if we look at the physical twin side, we have processes, we have actions, and we can call that actionable intelligence. We have decisions, so we're using DDDM, which is data-driven decision making, and then we have human engagement. So we have a person that's utilizing these processes, coming up with actionable intelligence, using that actionable intelligence to make decisions solely based on data. And that's that side. Now, when we move over to the digital twin side, we're moving over into aggregation. And so what do I mean when I say aggregation? We're taking all of the analytics that we have and we're pushing them into basically a data lake, right? That data lake is or data warehouse, if you will. We're taking all of that data and then we're performing analysis on that data. We're then utilizing insights. We can get those insights via artificial intelligence. We can also take those insights and feed them into, and machine learning can then learn about our processes from the data lake, and then moving those insights into predictive and prescriptive analytics that we're using in order to make different decisions. And also from a digital twin perspective, we're able to run multiple simulations based off of that as well. So trying to understand the difference between the physical twin and the digital twin is quite important, and how both of those are applicable within this holistic ecosystem. Down at the bottom here, we have, and I have another slide after this that's going to do a bit of a deeper dive into this. This is pulled out of ISO 30186. I don't know if it's actually been released yet. It's still maybe in its final draft version, but it is clearly defining a level 1, a level 2, a level 3, and a level 4, and a level 5. So you'll probably have been to some sessions where people have some form of this as far as where their digital twin sits or what the aspirations are. But now ISO has taken it upon themselves to actually come up with a digital twin maturity scale. Also, what they've provided in that 30186 is they've given very specific queries, and those queries will interrogate the digital twin. It will interrogate the functionality and the aspects of the digital twin. So you don't have to, it's not guesswork. You're basically auditing against the framework that ISO has provided in order to determine where you're at. And then you can also determine what your aspirations are, whether those aspirations are for a particular building. They could be for a neighborhood or for a scope within a city. They could be for a manufacturing process. So you can apply these within individual scopes as well. It all depends on what the aspirations of your particular entity, your particular company, what those aspirations are. This is it's a bit busy, but it's quite important to understand how we get to the digital twin. And again, understand the difference between the digital twin and the smart city, and understand all the different attributes that will feed into that digital twin. So as a basis, you'll see at the very bottom on the right hand, on the bottom in the light blue, everything at the bottom is going to come back to a specific ISO spec. So first we have the land information model. That's coming back to that specific specification of LADM, which is the Land Administration Domain Model, ISO 19152. That's going to give you your land parcel attributes, which is also known as a land bank. More than likely, if you're in master planning or if you're in GIS, you'll understand what that land bank is. Some people do, some people don't, but this feeds into the digital twin as well. This can feed in by itself for simulations on the front end and the master planning stage. If you want to have fly-throughs, if you want to just have a digital twin and it's based on your overall parcels, if you want to start to run simulations, 4D, you can get into this from this land information model. Land use categories, ownership details, geographic information systems mapping. So those are some of the main deliverables that are coming out of that land information model. What's important to note here is that other countries, I'm not exactly sure, but within the UAE, all of these phases, then you will report to the government. You will have a stage gate here where you will be reporting your GIS information into the government entity. And here it's called the ADDA, which is the Abu Dhabi Digital Authority, and it's also the DMT, which is the Department of Municipalities and Transportation. So there are stage gates, and that initial stage gate is in your master planning phase where you have CMP, which is conceptual, and then DMP, which is detailed. Each of those stages will have a land information model associated with it, with the GIS coordinates that will then feed in, and that's a stage gate from a government perspective. Next, we have the project information model. Here we have our 3D modeling. So you're starting to move into whatever system you may use. I would say probably 80 to 90% are somewhere within Revit. Some people are moving with Revitso, 3D CAD, all of these, that's your 3D modeling. You have your engineering analysis data. That could be your EIR is one of the main ones there. Your life cycle attributes, so those life cycle attributes are very important to that. And then your spatial coordination as well. So again, another level below, above the land information model. And it's not to say that these are moving from left to right. Some can run in parallel. So just to be clear on that, you can be developing your asset information model and your asset attributes. You can be developing that way back in parallel with your land information model. Once you have your what they say frozen BIM model or your federated BIM model. So once you have that, you can start to look at your asset attributes or parameters. That'll be all the parameters attached to a particular asset. If you have an air handling unit, you may have 20, 30, you could have up to 70 or 80 attributes. It all depends on your use cases at the end and what your overall goal is. Moving then to the right, we have the asset information model. I would think most in this space are probably aware of that. Again, asset attributes, data dictionary, your asset hierarchy, your spatial mapping, and then you start to look at your functional capabilities. So again, this is all mapping back. Each of these is mapping back. Apologies, the project information model is primarily going to come out of ISO 19650, and that's 1 through 5. And then your ISO 55000, that's an entire series of asset information frameworks that you are utilizing for your asset information model. Moving then over to the right, we have our network information model. This could also be defined as a city information model or a smart city concept model. I chose to put network information model because of the topology and because of the importance of the infrastructure in the network information model. However, you'll see I've mapped it to 30182, which is the smart city concept model. This is not to say that there are not other ones that may map to it better. That could certainly be the case, but I've found that this particular one is a good baseline. And then you can start to move through. The Smart City series has some in 30,000, and then there's a multitude of specifications in the 37,000 series. As I mentioned, there's 37122, 37166 is your Smart City data integration framework. So there's a multitude in there that will get you to your happy place within the smart city space, which is that layer that operates above the digital twin. Your digital twin is going to feed your smart city. All of that data is then going to move into an overall data lake. That is unstructured data because it's coming from multiple places. You're also, now this is only for UAE, but I'm sure the States or Europe, they all have something along this lines. But we also have something called the UAE SDI, which is spatial data infrastructure. That's going to, the government maintains all of this data. Basically, what you do is you go to the UAE government and you say, I'm requesting some of this data. They will tell you what data you can and can't have, and they will establish a data lake specifically for you, for your entity. And then, of course, that's read only, and you can take that information in. Again, unstructured, it's environmental data, business listings, financial data, transportation data, overall demographics, telecom data, utilities data, and health data. And there's probably some that I may have missed. I started to list these as government entities, but it got a bit cumbersome. So this data is also feeding into the data lake unstructured. Once it's in that data lake, we're doing several things with it. We're moving that data over to the digital twin. So we're taking the data that we need from the data lake in an unstructured format. There's an ETL process, obviously, on either side of this data lake: extract, transform, load. And we're going to push it into the digital twin. And I've tried to simplify the digital twin and simplify the smart city. It may not be the best practice to do this, but for the purposes of this presentation and a lot of the C-suite presentations that I give, this is, how are we doing it? What are we using to do it? And how are we going to measure our success? So if we move over to the digital twin to the far left side, we're going to use ISO 30173, which came out last year, which is digital twin concepts and terminology. That's going to give us a base framework of what is a digital twin, what is the framework around that, what is the methodology. So that's your how. Then we're going to get into the what. So once we have all of this data, it obviously needs to put into a format that it can be consumed by geographic information systems. I would say probably, 95% of all GIS systems are going to sit on Esri. And then there's multiple, I couldn't even say all have, there's any application or any software platform, Siemens, Gistech, or any of these, they're all going to have their own platforms, but usually 90 to 95% of the time, Esri is going to be that base layer underneath. So Esri specifies the type of data that it needs and the way that it needs to consume that data. It's in this phase and the what that you're actually going to take the BIM models, which are usually .revit or whatever the case may be, and you're going to push them to GSD, which is the geographical information system. So at this phase, you're going to start to build your digital twin, the actual, what you can actually see, touch digitally, be able to present a digital twin. Then how are we going to measure our digital twin? This is what I spoke of before, ISO 30186. This came out earlier this year, and this is how we're going to measure the maturity of our digital twin. What are we using our digital twin for? How are we using it? So this is going to give us that framework where we can actually measure and say, we have a level 2 digital twin according to ISO, not according to Kendall, not according to the framework that I've written within Modon or a framework that someone else has written in Jacobs or whatever other company. Let's take an international standard and let's certify our digital twin per se according to the audit that has been provided by ISO 30186. If we move over to the right side, we're going to see we have smart city. So the how, again, I want to stress that this is 37106 smart city operating models. This is one of many, but I found that this particular one, this 37106, is a very good framework. It's a good baseline to start to understand our smart city operating model. And we're just going to take that and make it company specific or project specific or whatever the case may be. Now, then we're going to move into the what, which is the 37166. So how are we going to integrate this data? We're going to have hundreds, if not thousands, of IoT devices, depending on the overall scope. And we need to understand what is that digital mesh framework across our scope, across our city, across our neighborhood, across our building? How are we integrating that IoT data in? How are we ensuring the data integrity for that IoT data and any other data sources that may be coming in other than IoT as well? Then we have 37122, which is indicators for smart cities. Again, this is just a framework. We can take, there's 19 scopes within a city that is defined by 37122. Of those 19 scopes, we can pull the scopes that we need that are specific to our particular scope of work or our ecosystem that we have, and we can start to define those key indicators. This is by no means saying that you're going to use those indicators, but you're going to use them as a framework to start to understand. If we then go up to the next level, we'll see on both sides, we have ISO 16400, which is method and data model registry and simulations. So we have a framework here to understand the simulations that we're going to run. So how do we normally arrive at simulations? I would say the best way to arrive at simulations, and the way that I've done it in the past, is what you're going to have at a group level or at a C-suite level is you're going to have blue sky ideas. And then it is our job as a digital delivery specialist or a digital delivery SME to take those blue sky and then push them into use cases. And then from those use cases, we're going to start to develop simulations. From those simulations, we can then determine IoT density, IoT complexity, and we can also move into 4D, 5D, 6D, 7D, 8D, across those spectrums. I don't have a slide here on 4D, 5D, 6D, but if I were to say most of the industry at this point in time is normally focused on 4D and 5D, 4D is going to focus on schedule, and 5D is going to integrate cost. So you'll find a lot of simulations or a lot of visualizations now that are going to look at that. There's also safety health, which I believe is 7D. I could be wrong on that because I'm going off the top of my head. But you're starting to see that integrated as well. If you can digitize a construction site, you can start to digitize maybe the rotation of the cranes. You can start to, you can visualize wherever the ditches are or wherever the safety zones are. So that helps from that perspective as well. We move up in that and we see ISO 30172, which is digital twin use cases. Again, very, very new spec, but it's nice that ISO is finally, they seem to be putting the work into smart city all the way up until 2000, probably 2021. And now they're starting to recognize that digital twin is just as important. So there's digital twin use cases, not a whole lot of use cases there, but enough at least to get an understanding and to get a framework. If I have a use case, who are my stakeholders? What data do I need? How am I going to use that data in the simulation? It might give you some direction on, what type of platforms you may use, but it's quite a functional spec and at least giving you a framework. So if you have a use case, you can plug it in to this overall framework that they have provided in 30172. If we move all the way over to the right, then you'll see we have ISO 16400 again, which is method and data model registry simulation. Same as it is on the right. We want to understand, we want to keep the simulations in a framework and also a quality aspect associated with that data integrity. Then we'll see we have ISO 63273, which is smart city use case collection and analysis. So again, providing that framework, providing some use cases, maybe some of those use cases are similar to some of the blue sky ideas, which you've then cascaded down to actual use cases. So this is kind of giving an overall understanding what feeds into the digital twin, what feeds into the smart city, along with the how, what, and measure. Obviously, the one thing is missing from this is kind of the stakeholders, but I do have a slide at the end that looks at the overall stakeholders within a digital delivery ecosystem. So this is an overall digital twin framework. Apologies for the upper right-hand corner there. So here you see we have 19650, 1 through 5. That's going to give you the real-time data integration, the bi-directional information flow, multi-source data fusion, and appropriate synchronization rates. Down at the bottom, I spoke on the land information model. So we have the physical and digital entity mapping. We have the multi-dimensional representation, which is GIS. We have predictive, also prescriptive analytics capabilities at this point, and scenario testing and optimization. That's modeling and simulation. We have life cycle management, which I spoke of as well, which is 30186, which is DT maturity. I have another slide on that, so I won't go too deep into that. We also have security and governance, which most should be familiar with, 27000 series, data privacy and protection, access control and authentication, ethical considerations and data use, and regulatory compliance and audits. Also, it should be saying that security and governance, obviously, you have to comply with your federal regulations. In our case, in UAE, well, actually not UAE, but in Abu Dhabi, it's the ADDA, which is also the Office of General Development. In UAE in general, you have Federal Decree number 45, which will give you the very high level from a data perspective of data security. Then we have ISO 21838, which is the top level ontologies. This is common information models, standardized interfaces and protocols, cross-domain data exchange, and semantic consistency. So this is an overall high-level framework. Obviously, you can plug in many more ISO standards, but this is kind of giving a good representation and a good starting point. So I talked about this a bit earlier. So this slide just goes into the relationship between artificial intelligence as you move through these maturity levels. So we talk about in 3 to 5 years from a not mature program, you can achieve level 3 predictive maturity across the digital ecosystem's entire digital platform. It's realistic, it's achievable. It does remain a key focus. However, attaining level 4 when you get into prescriptive, also, prescriptive analytics, which is a bit more. Level 5 is autonomous. We only see that in this particular instance because when you hit level 5, it's no human intervention. So I don't think anybody, we as society, want to be in a space where there's no human intervention. In my perspective, and this is only me speaking, I think there should always be a human being at the tail end of that process, kind of verifying, validating the artificial intelligence, making sure it's making the correct decisions. But in manufacturing is kind of a good scope where you can kind of look at removing the human intervention. We see the 3 levels, and I won't go into AI too much, but we see the 3 levels. As we move through these maturity levels, we can see we have artificial narrow intelligence, recognizes patterns, makes decisions based on algorithms, rules that are written in the background. Then we have AGI, which is artificial general intelligence. That's when the AI begins to understand, and that's when you get to the predictive and the beginning of the prescriptive analytics. It applies that knowledge across a wide range of tasks, much like a human would. Then, as I said, we get into super intelligence. There's not too many spaces that this exists. I would say this probably exists in defense at this point, probably aerospace in some scopes, super cognitive abilities, potentially leading to advancement in solutions beyond human comprehension. It would be capable of independent thought, learning, and self-improvement. So when we get into this realm, we're really getting into some ethical considerations. If you're ever looking for a good read on the weekend, the EU AI Act went into effect, I believe, February 2nd of this year. Which really gives a good, if we think of GDPR, it's the GDPR for those of us on the Europe side. I came from Denmark before I came here, so GDPR is giving that overall for data, and this EU AI Act is doing the same for AI, really trying to give some governance to it and some accountability. because a lot of people are starting to use AI and not considering the ethical portion of it. So this is a little bit of a deeper dive into the digital twin maturity description. So as I said, we have level 1, which is descriptive mirroring. It's the convergence methodology is considered disconnected. So level 1 digital twin, it focuses on visualizing individual assets using limited data without live links to operating environments. The scope is restricted to static representations of specifications and design parameters with manual updates. Integration with enterprise systems or broader technology ecosystem is also constrained. Then we move to level 2, which is diagnostics monitoring. And by the way, this language is pulling verbatim from ISO 30186. Level 2 enables persistent connectivity for real-time data exchange between digital twins and physical assets using common interoperable interfaces. Limited integration for expanded analytical use cases through data sharing between multiple twins. Another way of multiple twins is we say twin of twins. So whenever we're building digital twins across a scope or across a land bank, we normally are going to build maybe 4 to 5 structures. If it's vertical structures and if it's horizontal assets, we're going to take on a certain amount of square meters, and then we're going to connect those at a later time. We're not going to try to ingest an entire land bank across a large amount of hectares. Level 3, we move into predictive modeling. That is when you have a all federated model. So that's using federated interoperability between multiple digital twins, or like I said, twin of twins, to exchange and synchronize data leveraging common interfaces for domain-based analytical applications. Then we move into level 4, which is prescriptive analytics, which is collaborative as far as the methodology. Level 4 achieves automated synchronization of digital twins with physical assets, utilizing artificial intelligence with a subset of ML, machine learning, and also large language models as well for learning and continuously updating the models based on operational data. So we start to have our live feeds, our IoT is fully embedded. This enables reliable simulation of asset dynamics and predictive intelligence to proactively identify and prevent issues. Then we move to level 5, which I spoke of before, which is autonomous. Everything, the convergence methodology is unified in this particular aspect. It enables the most advanced form of self-learning that reliably orchestrates responses across systems with minimal manual oversight. They achieve enterprise-grade sophistication via systems integration, self-diagnostics. So that's quite important, right? Self-diagnostics. It doesn't need a human to determine when there's an issue. It will determine what that issue is, and it will determine the best solution or the best corrective actions to fix that particular deviation or that anomaly. Accurate analytic predictions and closed loop automation for self-healing capabilities. Again, this autonomous, we really have to be careful because we're moving into a lot of ethical considerations. So overall digital governance framework. So this framework just provides an overall set of principles and practices to ensure that the digital twin project and the overall digital ecosystem is managed in a responsible and an effective manner. So we've already spoken about the digital twin 30173, which is the concepts. We've already spoken about the maturity model, which is 30186. Let's take a look at some of these others. So we have environmental excellence, sustainable solutions through digital twin insights, ISO 14000. Then we have data integrity, obviously very, very important. And this should actually probably read ISO 8000 series because there's 8061 and there's a few more in there. But that's ensuring, right? We all know the saying, garbage in, garbage out. So we need to ensure that data integrity is part of that ecosystem as well. And we have checks and balances to ensure, and we have some stage gates in there as well before the data moving through that ETL process. We have something else called innovation acceleration. So there's another ISO specification that's 56002. That is rapid iteration for enhanced solutions. I do have another slide on this at the end. this is starting to catch on a bit more. I think it's quite important. What this does is this gives you a framework to audit against via a third party, Bureau Veritas or Lloyd's Register, to come in and say across 8 different domains, what is your baseline and how innovative is your company? And then after that audit, give you corrective actions. And once you implement those corrective actions, then you get a certification via ISO, the same way you would as ISO 9001, 2015, to say we are an innovative company. Risk mitigation, always important of any process. Anyone from a quality background would understand this, or project controls. So preventing disruption, and how does that integrate into the digital twin? Because we can run simulations prior to actually implementation. Then we have artificial intelligence. I spoke of this a bit before. We have the European Union AI Act, speaking to the ethics and the development and deployment of AI. So very, very important. Just came out this year, and we'll be having some more on that. Then we have collaborative insights. So we have cross-functional decision making. So quite important as well. One of the important things with digital delivery is leveraging partners, understanding that they're the ecosystems and the overall landscape is set up that there are a lot of entities that are very specific to very specific scopes. And it's important to understand, instead of just going to one particular vendor and trying to have an all-in-one solution, it's much better to have that agnostic platform and to be able to plug in very specific scopes. If it's transportation, you have very specific vendors that are simply focused on transportation. That's all they do. Plug them into your digital twin ecosystem. For AI, the same, for environmental, the same, etc. Digital construction, again, this moves through the ISO 19650. I would say the digital aspect will pick up around 19653, and it will go 3, 4, and 5. And I have a bit of a deeper dive into that as well. Smart city integration, I've already spoken on this one. So we have cohesive urban environments. So again, these are those key indicators moving through those cohesive urban environments. Then we have social responsibility, which is ISO 26000. It's another one that's often overlooked. Safeguarding personal data, governing interactions, and understanding, is your digital twin, are you taking in the information from others, and are you understanding how that's impacting society on a whole? Okay. Then again, successful vendor relationships, data-driven collaboration, moving from that ISO 27001, understanding data and security as well. So here we have a logical sequence framework. I've tied this to RIBA. Some may be familiar with RIBA, some may not. It's a European kind of construction life cycle that well, not even construction life cycle, apologies, the life cycle of an overall project. So that RIBA runs stage 0, strategic definition, stage 1, preparation and brief, stage 2 is conceptual, stage 3 is spatial coordination, stage 4 is technical design, stage 5 is construction, stage 6 is handover, and stage 7 is operations. So I've kind of mapped these against the building blocks and tried to give like specific deliverables. So when we talk about 30173, I don't think I'm going to go through these in the interest of time, because I believe we only have about 10 minutes or so left. So just want to understand that, and you can kind of take a look in this, and you can see these are very specific deliverables for 30173. 19652, we're going to start to look at the EIR, we're going to start to look at the AIR, our BIM execution plan, our project information model. We're going to start to look at our common data environment. We're going to get these established, get these frameworks established. Then 19653 is the operational phase of the assets. So then we start with the implementation, implementing the asset information model, the management processes associated with that asset hierarchy. Part 4 of 19650, we're going to look at the information exchange requirements. How is our data moving from point A to point B, the data interoperability. Also, we're going to set mechanisms in place to monitor and audit the information exchange process. What is the quality of our data? Then we're going to move into 19655. Again, we've had looked at this in the early stages, so we're taking a security-minded approach. So when we move and we're starting to twin of twins and we're starting to publish to some type of portal and we're moving into possibly a public space, we want a risk assessment, security objectives. We want to understand what those security policies are. As you can see, this is mapped against construction. So we're still in according to RIBA, we're still in the early phases. We haven't handed anything over yet, and we want to get all of this in place before we start to hand these assets over. We could be handing them over to government entities. We could be handing them over to operators, but certainly at some point in time, the general public will start to interact with the digital twin. It could be immersive experiences. It could be that seamless experience that we're trying to create within communities. And the last one is just a bit of the deliverables from the digital twin maturity model. So we're looking at the maturity levels and criteria. We're looking at where our current state is. We're identifying gaps. And then we're also updating our digital twin maturity depending on what we've established as our goals. Digital ecosystem, the key performance indicators. So some of these are going to be primarily focused on data, but some are not. Some are quantitative and some are qualitative. So we have data integrity KPIs, dependent percentage of accurate data within the digital twin, providing insights into data, etc. We have real-time data integration. So all of these IoT sensors, any government that we're getting from the data or from all these multiple sources that we may have, because these are measured in milliseconds, yes? Then we have scenario simulation efficiency, assesses the efficiency gains in simulating scenarios. So are we predicting correctly with our simulations, and that then when we go to actually implement those scenarios, we want to look back at the scenarios and say, okay, we've done this now. We've moved into go live. We want to look at that scenarios and we want to see how effective they were in the prediction. User satisfaction. So this one is more qualitative. So we want to look at our end users. Our end users could be anyone internal or external. So we want to have mechanisms in place for a feedback loop. Cross-functional mapping accuracy measures the precision of cross-functionality mapping, crucial for capturing asset interdependencies. So we're in the 55,000 series. We're understanding what these hierarchies are, et cetera, et cetera. Resource efficiency. I'm just going to move through a bit quick because I think there's only a few minutes left here. Quantifies the resource consumption improvements, energy consumption reduction, which is feeding into the SDGs for UAE. It's the Vision 2030. And then emergency response, again, very important. And all the way at the back there is our BIM deconfliction KPI, which tracks the rate at which the conflicts within the building information model are resolved. So all of these are some of the key performance indicators, but I believe these are some of the key ones. So when we look at digital delivery from an organizational structure, this is not to say this is the entire team you need. Some of these you'll just be plugging in as you need them. We have a digital delivery director. We have IT managers. We have a digital twin team, which usually consists of digital twin, GIS. We have a data management team. We have a BIM and a GIS digitization team. Again, that's split between the digital twin and the BIM team. We have MEP subject matter experts from when we're moving into facilities management. We need them to understand facilities management and how that is integrated with the digital twin. We have a health management team as well. The health management team is kind of coming in and coming out on an as-needed basis. Again, ethics and legal team, understanding AI, understanding data privacy, making sure you're doing data privacy impact assessments, anything that has to do with cameras or any type of data that you're collecting. You should be categorizing that data and be running a DPIA, stakeholder management team, and then project managers as well. So just kind of giving a rough holistic of the multiple stakeholders within that. And I'm almost done here. I believe 8:30. So this is the last slide, or next to last slide, I believe. So this is just what I was talking about a bit earlier. ISO 56002, which is innovation management assessment scopes. Again, bring in a third party, looking at strategy, culture, processes, operations, leadership, resources, tools, and performance. There's some structurized questionnaires there that are coming out of BSEN 16555, and you're able to do that in-house or external or assisted, a hybrid. That's just going to kind of give you an understanding of a lot of companies claim to be innovative, but when you really do and you peel back the layers, maybe they're not so innovative. And this kind of gives that third-party certification. And with that, I believe I stopped right on time at 8:30. So I will stop sharing and I will
Thank you,
hand
sir.
it back over to the moderator.
Perfect. I think that was a perfect timing, Mr. Kendall. I think you have been monitoring, just looking like the ISO standard frameworks. The time management has absolutely on the spot for you.
Thank you.
Good. So I think a lot of information. Of course, a lot of busy slide was there, and but quite informative framework infrastructure perspective, and then it covers the 360-degree view of a lot of things with the digital twinning, and then what are the different components involved around this concept, right? So that was a quite informative, heavy duty. I believe that there will be questions. I can see a few questions came to us so far here. But yeah, I invite audience to, if you have any kind of clarification needed on any of the slide, but yeah, be specific to the objective rather than very elaborative question, feel free to put them into the Q&A. So let me take the question and answers, Mr. Wilson, for you. So first one is coming from Mr. Faris. He's asking about what quality system will be used in predictive modeling? What quality system will we use?
Okay, so for predictive modeling, I think that goes back to I think of the one slide speaks to the modeling and the simulations. I can't
Yes.
think of the number off the top of my head, but it's on the slide there at the top of that digital ecosystem that we had. So that's going to provide the framework for modeling and simulations. Um, Therefore, you can use that as a framework, and you can also, of course, you can always integrate ISO 9001, 2015, and then also you're going to want to integrate ISO 8000, which is your data quality. Apologies that I can't remember that one off the top of my head for the modeling and simulation, but it will be provided in the deck that will be shared afterwards. And I did neglect to say at the end, feel free, anyone, to reach out to me on LinkedIn after the session, or, I'm more than happy to have some offline sessions with anybody that wants to do more of a deep dive and didn't get the chance to ask the queries here.
Thank you. Yes, I think the question is being asked whether the session will be available in the form of recording. Yes, it will be available in the YouTube channel of PMIUA chapter that will be published. So feel free to revisit the YouTube channel. You will get that there. Regarding the presentation as well, I think it would be circulated to the people who are attending the session. So we can send that out as well with the permission of Mr. Wilson, of course. Now, coming to the question back, Mr. Wilson, so Mohammad Adin is asking that help us to understand with any example of ethical consideration and responsible innovation in context of artificial intelligence. Would you like to
Well,
take this?
that's quite a question, right? So again, I think this is a landscape that we're all kind of navigating now, and we're trying to understand now. I think the word artificial intelligence is being overused right now. I think there's a big focus on generative AI, Chat GPT. I think obviously everyone is using at this point in time. From an ethical considerations, I will point you straight to the EU AI Act. You don't have to look much further than that. You could look a bit in the social responsibility, but if you digest that EU AI Act, that is going to give you exactly the framework. And if you're in Europe, it's a legal document. It's the same as GDPR. So that's going to give you the framework that you need, and it's a wonderful document. It's not a difficult read. and it's available to the public. So dealing with any AI, before you move into any AI, you really want to digest that document, understand it, and it will give you that framework.
Thank you. I think just to add to that point, to Mohammad's question there, so ethical and responsible, there are two different aspects of looking at that from the AI perspective. For example, since you asked the example, something comes to my mind is that what you can do in terms of ethical responsibility of the AI uses. So for example, there are different aspects of ethical, like fairness, accountability, safety. These are the few ethical concepts which will definitely need to be looked at into the perspective of consideration. An example could be just like what Mr. Wilson was mentioning about EU Act. Similarly, of course, the GDPR and other relevant data framework speaks about, can you develop an AI system, for example, which is not consuming the user data in an authorized way, okay, and then complying to the regular standards. Don't use the data for the wrong things. That's one of the use case, for example. Coming to the fairness, so what are the data you're using in the AI system? Is it getting biased on the basis of race, gender, age? Okay, that you need to look at from the AI perspective. Coming to responsible part of it, I think you can look at human-centric designing, you can look at ethical impact assessment and sustainability aspect of environment. Those are the responsible concept of AI technologies perspective. But thank you so much, Wilson, for getting that answered as well. Third one is in my queue is in from Mr. Mazdi, and then he's telling that as a project manager in construction industry, how we can benefit from, again, artificial intelligence and new technologies. Is it started in the UAE?
Yes. So I think one of the big ones for construction overall delivery is augmented reality. So there's multiple augmented reality companies out there. Some of the more popular ones would be like Open Space, HoloSite, XYZ. So sorry, 1 second. So those are some very good resources from a construction standpoint, because from a construction standpoint, we want to look at how are we going to be able to track progress? How are we looking at deviations, anomalies on the site? And augmented reality, I would say, is probably one of the most powerful tools that's harnessing artificial intelligence, that's talking directly with your BIM models, et cetera, et cetera. So that's one particular aspect. The other particular aspect of that is on the front side with the BIM modeling. You'll find clash detection. Some of those processors are now being fully automated. So it doesn't have to necessarily be Autodesk. It could be Revitso. It could be, there's some really wonderful products out there from a construction and from a delivery aspect that are harnessing the power of AI to look at clash detection, and from the actual delivery side, looking even drones. People are using drones to track progress. You have a lot of time, what do you say, time lapse videos, things like that. So these are a few of the aspects as far as construction and delivery.
Okay, good. A lot of information and from the perspective of examples there. Thank you so much. That was quite exciting to know that these things, how they really connect together. So these answers are also helping the other audience as well. Coming to the next one, which is making me something intrigued out, is that it is coming from Mr. Chris. So he's telling that he liked the approach. Okay, he liked the idea of a top-down approach, what you're just showing around. What should digital twin champions at the individual enterprises be doing to prepare and position themselves and their employers to meet this new demand? Okay, so it's a bit of kind of strategic question there, that what can we individuals do to prepare and position ourselves with the employers to meet this demand there?
Sure.
How digital
So the first and most important of all these processes is change management. Change management, normalizing the process, having people understand what the expectations and what you can actually get from a digital twin. A lot of times this is why I kind of open with the difference between a digital twin and a smart city. people kind of have this expectation that, you're going to get environmental straight out of a digital twin. No, you're going to get that from what you plug into the digital twin, and you're going to be able to visualize it with simulations. So first of all is, change management, become the idea, become a digital transformation champion. And by doing that, you're normalizing the process. Take bite-sized pieces, try to take the language that we use. Don't be too technical when you're speaking to people. Try to put it in a context where they can understand it. There's all forms of digital transformation. It could be something as simple as digitizing forms. That's one way of kind of leading people into this digital transformation and digital twins. The other one, which is very important, continuous learning. You'll see from the slide that I showed at the beginning, continuous learning. You have to go to conferences, you have to get certifications, you have to stay at the forefront and understand what's out there in the tech landscape and what suits your company best. Don't just go with a platform because it's the most used platform. It may not be the best platform for your particular entity. The other is a teamwork approach, right? So I've always said, you shine, I shine, we shine, right? So although you are the one that is a digital champion, you have to understand that a digital twin will never be successful if you don't have a strong BIM team sitting next to you, not sitting underneath you. They are feeding you, but they're sitting next to you. And then to the right of that, you have the smart city. So understand the teamwork approach and understand change management. The change management is the most important aspect, and the normalization of the processes. A lot of times in the beginning of what I was doing in this process in 2015, 2016, I'd walk in and I'd be super tech focused and super IT focused, and I would lose the C-suite within the first 5 minutes, right? After the first 2 to 3 slides. So you have to really understand your audience and understand what you're trying to achieve, and make sure it ties into your company's vision. Make sure it ties into the project brief, and these blue sky ideas. Make sure everything gets mapped to that as well.
Wow. Okay. I think that goes back to the basics again of the DT, digital transformation aspect around that in the nutshell. But I think a lot of questions now started flowing through. I would not be able to take everything, but definitely one is catching my attention is from Nabil, is that, of course, this is an important one. That's why I'm taking it without any other offense to the people there. Cybersecurity, I think it comes out in all aspects about most of the topics. So any ideas which you would like to share around cybersecurity considerations of digital twinning?
Yes, certainly. The first is, as a digital twin expert or a digital twin transformation, leverage your IT, right? This normally you're going to leverage your IT department, and they're going to have those protocols in place. Don't try to understand that process yourself. You are adjacent to cybersecurity. It's not necessary. That's why I showed that holistic ecosystem of all the stakeholders, right? We can say 27,000 series, right? We can say that's IT, but there's a bit more to it than that. So that would be the main thing. Again, teamwork, understanding your ecosystem, understanding your stakeholders, understanding how to delegate that to the right individuals within your team, and also understanding the platforms that you use, the software platforms. Put those platforms to a rigorous test via your IT team. Make sure they're compliant to 27,000 series. Make sure they're compliant to the EU AI Act, etc. So I would say that's probably the best way.
Thank you. I think fair enough. I think you have shared your coordinates with the audience that how they can reach you out. There are some questions related to your work and how is it applicable to the other industries like retailing and the client-facing industries. I think even the question was around about your work in the Modern and how is it helping in Abu Dhabi and all that sort. So I think that will be a very personalized question about your work experience. So feel free to get in touch with Mr. Wilson in that case, as he mentioned in the beginning there. We are going to take a sign off from there, but thank you so much, Dr. Wilson here. And then what I can say that the digital twinning aspect is as a fundamental to the coming back to the situation where we talk about what is smart cities, how is it getting mapped to the change management, what is going to link the artificial intelligence component in it, and apparently the cybersecurity also inherent part of the whole gamut there. So with that explanation, I think that was a quite informative, heavy duty presentation with a lot of information. We are going to close the webinar tonight, audience. And first of all, I would like to thank to all of you for being such a great audience, have been patient enough to stay back, and then your participation in terms of question and answers and interactions. I would like to give a shout out to the friends in the marketing team who are doing their wonders around publishing this information about webinars and events to our social media and also to our website. We would not say good night without saying thank you to rest of the PMI chapter volunteers who are always behind the successful webinars. They are from outreach, volunteering, membership, and finance governance part of the things. So thank you so much. I think until our next webinar, before we go, I would like to just also remind you of that there is an event, in-person event, which is also being going to be organized in the month of August for the people who are, especially in Abu Dhabi, would have an opportunity to meet the people as a volunteer as well there. And the date is not yet fully confirmed. So just keep a watch on our social media handles. We will be announcing that date pretty soon about PMI UAE chapter in-person event in this month. And with that in mind, looking forward to people who are going to be there. Have a wonderful time. And this is your host, Anchal, with Amir, Joyce, Parvez, and Ankur saying the good night and stay blessed. Thank you so much.
Good night, everyone. Thank you very much for attending. Greatly appreciated. Honored that PMI allowed me to do this. And again, feel free to reach out to me. I'm sure I can learn a lot from a lot of the people that attended the meeting as well.
Same here. Thank you, sir. Bye-bye. Take care. Good night.
Thank you.